All right, here we go. Three, two, and one. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Strong with Dr. Michael G. Daniels. This is your host, C.B. Baker. I got another great episode for you today, and we have another guest. Master Life Coach Angie Richardson will be joining us today, along with Dr. Daniels. And we got a topic today which is going to be really good. And the topic today is how long is too long before either party proposes to one about marriage. All right, welcome to the show, Dr. Daniels and Angie. How's everybody doing?
Doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great day to be alive.
All right, so Pastor Daniels, how you feel at the long week of preparation for Easter week?
Well, it's always a busy time prior to Easter, and it's always a busy time after Easter. Unfortunately, Easter tends to bring out the best and the worst in individuals. So,
Mm.
it's kind of a two-headed coin, I guess, when you think about it. But, life goes on, and that's all we got to keep on,
Hmm.
which makes the topic today a great topic, just because springtime is here. And in the springtime, that's when the sap begins to rise. That's an old, you guys are probably too young to remember. But, in my generation and generation before me, they would say the sap begins to rise, which means that, people's heads are turned toward love and that kind of thing, or love
Hmm.
and that kind of thing, how you want to look at it. And so, and oftentimes, if you look at wedding arrangements, most wedding arrangements are made in the spring.
True.
Most of the people come to you and say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for premarital counseling. I'm ready to go. And so it also, becomes a busy season. So it's a very good topic for this time of year.
Hmm.
All right, so let's dive right into the question. All right, y'all. How
Okay.
long is too long before you just absolutely got to say, like, I'm going to marry this person, or as a man, I got to propose, or the female says, okay, I got to do a pseudo proposal, basically give him a strong hint that it's time
Hmm.
for you to start proposing, or we're gonna move on. So how long is too long?
Well, I'll go first. And Dr. Daniels, that also answers why spring is my favorite season. One of them, spring and fall, because of love. Love is always in the air. But how long is too long to date? Or to be in a relationship before you say enough is enough? I can answer that from a saved perspective and following Christ and then not. So when I was in the world, so to speak, being in the world, I was actually in a relationship to where I was with someone, I want to say for about 4 years, 4.5 years. We dated for 2 years, and then he sold his house, bought another house. We moved a larger house, and myself and my kids, all moved in together with his mother, his son. And I would say another 2 years went by, 2.5 years maybe. And then I said, okay, this is too long, because the whole purpose was marriage. That was the goal. And whenever I would bring it up, he would always say, well, we're not there yet. So it got to a point I was ready to basically just start dating others. I was about ready to step outside of the relationship. So I had to make it known, like, look, what are we going to do here? Either we're going to be together, we're going to do this, or we're not. I talked to my dad about it, and my father told me, you're living with him, you're giving him the benefits of a wife. He needs to marry you. So I didn't put it to him in that way, but I basically had a talk with him and just let him know, I spoke with him, where are you on this? And he says, we're not there yet. I said, okay, not a problem. I was sad about it, but I did what I needed to do. I packed up and moved out. That was it.
Well,
So, worldly perspective, I'm sorry, that was 4 years. That was too long. Honestly, that was too long. Um, when you look at it in that aspect of things, because a lot of people don't do things in the way that we should. But now, where I am right now in my life and my walk with Christ, I think early on if it's going somewhere, pretty quick, the Holy Spirit will show you what you're dealing with. So I would say anything after a year to a year and a half, really 2 years, you're just wasting time, I think, where I am right now in my life. So that's my perspective on things.
Well, I would say this, to put a time limit on dating is to presuppose that most people understand what dating really means.
Exactly.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and also where you are in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 55, 60 years old, then you don't need to date a long time. You know what you want, you know what you need, and it's very clear what's because you experience life.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 20, 25 years, then your length of time needs to be longer because you don't really get the full breadth of a person
Mm-hmm.
that quickly because people are still changing. They're still growing to themselves. And you really don't want to marry someone while they're still growing. You want to wait till they really flush out things so you get an appreciation for who they are. So it's really going to be dependent upon not only them, but your own sense of savviness.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to marry a person until you really have a good idea of who that person is. And
Mm-hmm.
so some people, they don't learn too quickly. So if you're a slow learner, it might take 2 years to figure out who that person is. If you're a quick learner, it might take you 6 months to figure out who that person is. And so it's really not dependent upon time. What it's dependent upon is why are you still in that relationship?
That's right.
If I know you and you know me, and we're not ready to get married, then the question is, why did I date you in the first place?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
In truth to fact, why are you dating somebody who the two of you have not already figured out there is a future for you? Because to me, that in and of itself is a waste of time. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the problem that people have, and I'm speaking, strictly from an advantage point of the sage older person in this trilogy that we have here, because I got quite a few years on both of you guys.
Well,
Yeah, I do. You might not like admit it, but I do. Okay, but I mean, I'm
well,
just saying to say this. People confuse dating for getting to know, for friendships.
mm-hmm.
That's because
Mm-hmm.
people tend to seek not to know you first. What they tend to seek is a sexual relationship
I
first,
agree.
right? And so if you're seeking a sexual relationship, then that's not really dating. That's just
Hooking
trading
up.
trading DNA.
That's true.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah,
But,
Right.
but
that's true.
the,
When I left work today, my coworker, and I don't know how long her son was dating this young lady, but he's 26. And she told me he just broke up with her because he said this isn't going anywhere. He also said, I'm saving myself for marriage, but what is the purpose of this? So he broke up with her, and he says, and I am not an ATM machine. So
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. See, why date a person who until you have figured out that you all have similar goals and objectives
mm-hmm,
for the same thing
mm-hmm,
is the point I'm raising.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah, I can be your friend without dating you. We can still have a good time. I can still get to know you without,
mm-hmm.
right? Because
True.
if the concept is this, if the concept is I have to date you in order for you to not have a lot of lovers, then do I really want you anyway?
True. That's right. That's right. I agree. I agree. I totally agree. But I think, okay, I'll say this also. Someone just said to me just the other day, they just asked me, and this may be a bit off topic. Um, I said I was abstinent and I plan to be that way until marriage. That's the plan. Okay. And he said, do you really think a man is going to wait for you uh, to have sex? And I said, well, the man for me will wait for me. The man that God has for me will wait because I'm praying that he's on the same page. However, he felt like, well, He might not have it with you, but he might have it with someone else. I said, well, that might not be the man for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the generation below me? That's you, Minister Baker.
Well, I will say for my generation, it's really kind of split. Generation X is kind of split a little bit. And some of it's because we're getting older, but I know just as short as 5 years ago, you asked me that question or ask anybody in my ecosphere that question is they're not waiting for the female, they're going to move on. And now it's getting to the point where the females are doing the same exact thing. They want to test the car before they buy it as well. Nobody is sitting around wanting to wait. And me and Dr. Daniels have talked about this extensively over our podcast that we've had, where the courtship is not being done. And we're not asking the right questions when we're dating or we're around certain people. We're not talking about certain subjects. We're literally like you just said, we're talking about, the men is thinking, okay, how can I get into bed with her? How many dates is going to take for me to, to get it, and then the female on the flip side from my presumption is she's thinking how many dates I got to go through before I got to give it up. And we're focused on the wrong thing.
Yep.
Now at 44 talking to those people, and it's just 5 years ago. Now we're talking about two different things because now we're focused on business. Can this person help me maybe progress in business professionally? Does it work? Now we're starting to finally get to what the Bible's looking at. It's like, hey, do we fit together, on this contract? But it's still it's coming up in the conversation when I talk to my young brothers, but it's still at the the sex is still on the forefront of the conversation, if that makes sense. And it is hard, Dr. Daniels, to have that conversation and it not come up as the focal point of the conversation. You always got to keep driving it back to what the whole purpose is. But I will say, if you're at a bar and you're talking about with your homies, it's going to come up, and it just basically, if it's 4 or 5 guys in the room, it's basically that's going to dominate the conversation. So
let me throw this out.
I want to ask you all, how do you?
Well, let me throw this out at you before you go to another question.
Okay.
Because something that you said and what Angie said kind of struck a chord with me. So are both of you saying then that if I see someone who I think has the physical appeal that I like, because we know your first thing is what your eyes see, right? So you see someone that physically has the things that you think that you like, because you haven't really got to know them yet. So if you ask that person out on a date, you ask them not just not a serious relationship, because there's a difference between relationship, in my mind, than just going out, for a meal with someone. At least that's how I view it in my generation as well. Anyway, let's say you go out with them and you all are eating dinner and you're talking, and that dinner goes well. Okay, so you go back on a second meeting. Okay, and then you get to talking about other things, and you say to the person, you know what? I'm here in my life, blah, 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 blah. And, and I'm at a point where I am looking for a serious commitment, not a, overnight fling. How, if you were to ask that person or say that person, so, in CB, in your case, if you would say to the female, and Angie, in your case, if you would say to the male, I am looking for someone so I can get to know them first. I'm looking for someone who's looking for the same things out of life I'm looking for, so that we can build together something that will last forever. If you told the person that, what do you think their response would be?
Well, I think I've said something similar to what you just said, and they agree with that. However, it goes right back to what CB said. It goes right back to sex after a while. It doesn't take long, because at the end of the day, most men don't want to wait. And I've been told that. I've been told by other men that I think are, they say they're saved, but they tell me, well, we don't have to wait. You become my wife when we, if we actually have sex. And I'm like, no, that's not how I'm viewing it here. That, well, that's in the Bible. Okay. But we're going to do it different. I don't want to do it that way. That's not, because if that's the case, we got a lot of husbands and wives around here. But that's just, it goes back to that one thing. And then even women, when you mention dating, a lot of the younger women, what women are thinking is how many dates do we go on before we have sex, so that I don't look like, oh, basically, like I'm just putting myself out there. So, I mean, we can word it any kind of way we want to, but it ends up right back.
One thing I'd have told you to tell him is, hey, we might have a conversation if you got the money of King Solomon.
I know, right? Look.
So what
you can provide for me now?
What do you think the female response would be, Minister Baker, if you were to pose that to her in the generation you're in?
I'm going to tell you what's crazy. Yeah, I feel like if I propose that question to a female, and if you line 10 females up in front of me, I would have 10 wives within a month. Because they would be so shocked at that response coming from a black man. They would basically want to marry him right then and there. They would act like they want to play hard to get, but they would be wanting to marry them. And I have told guys plenty of times, if you do this, you will have to. The best game is no game, period. But they feel like you got to be Idris Elba, and Morris Chestnut licking your lips to be able to get somewhere. And I'm like, no, dog, you ain't got to do that. But I honestly feel like if I was like that, that's what would happen. Because that's what happened with Sherry, my wife, and that's what's happened to me with countless other women before her. Is like, I made the decision to like, no, this is not somebody I want to marry. And then I moved on. So that's the part that as the man, you got to realize, okay, you put yourself out there. This is what I have to offer. Okay. And now the new thing, Dr. Daniels, what you asked me before, what men are starting to do now is that what do you bring to the table? Which that's a whole nother podcast we can get into. Like, why are we focused in on that when we're supposed to be providing? But they will also talk about that. They say, hey, what are you providing? What are you bringing to the table? What kind of job do you have? What's your credit score? And it's like, I don't want to mess up my whole livelihood over, messing around with you.
Now, the reason why I asked that question is because here's what I heard both of you say earlier on.
Okay.
That how long should I have sex with a person before I expect them to ask me to marry him? Or how long should I have sex with a person before I ask them to marry me? See, that really is what you all said early on, in when we first opened up the discussion. And that's why I posed the question that way. Because, see, that really is the crux of it. Is that what are we really asking when you say, how long should I wait to ask a person to marry me? Well, to me, if you are a woman that says she is if you, that's what you say your deal breaker is, right? If that's your deal breaker, then to me, you don't change the rules just to get somebody.
No.
That, you know what? you're not going to get the kitty until you pay for the whole cat. If that's your rule, then that's the deal, right? So you don't have to deal with that question of how long is this man gonna come and get the milk without paying for the cow, because then, right, he's going to ask you, and you're going, and you're going to know if he can hold out. So if he can't hold out for 6 months waiting on you, then you know right then and there, right? The minute
that's right.
Gotta have it, then okay, then we. In this situation long enough, because you've shown me that you can't have it. You can't abstain. And here's why I'm saying that. What if the man is in the military and he's away for 6 months if he can't abstain with you as a girlfriend for 6 months,
Yep.
if he's deployed for 6 months, he's not going to abstain either.
Nope.
And the same thing with the female.
Mm-hmm.
Or what if someone has to go away for training? So what if someone has to go for any reason? You got to be apart. If you can't abstain during the dating period, then you can't abstain otherwise either.
Nope.
I'm just saying, personally, the idea that we have to have sex, to me, speaks to, in my personal opinion, at this stage in my life, sex don't keep you together.
No,
it just
does not.
So
it does not.
To me, how long would I have to stay with somebody before I say, this ain't working out? The minute you break one of my rules, then I know what you haven't asked me yet, so it's a done deal.
That's right. I've had to walk away from people also because not only that, but then there were other things that I saw within the first few weeks that let me know this is not what I'm looking for. We can be friends maybe or maybe not, and I just had to keep moving. And I've also had men to tell me I can't cover you when I put it out there as far as where I am and my walk, just having general conversation with them. They see where I am, they sense it, they know it, they hear it, and they tell me, you know what, I'm not in the same place that you are. I love God and I and everything, but I can't cover you. And I respect that. I really do. So, but then at the same time, they still try to hang around just a little bit to see if I'm going to cave at some point. But I don't, I'm just like, okay, well, that's what it is. It's time we got to turn the channel or turn the page, and just kind of change it up a bit because we can't talk in the way that we were. If you've already told me what it is, why am I going to continue, just to sit in it in hopes that you might change your mind? You've already said what it is and I've already recognized it. The Holy Spirit has already shown me what I need to see. So that's it. That's what it is. So.
Right.
So I got a question for you, Angie. So being where you're at right now, how many weeks or months would it take for you to be able to say to yourself, okay, I would marry this particular person? And when are you going to then throw those hints at him during that time frame?
I'm not going to throw any hints because once again, in my experience, any man that I have dated, alpha male they'll let me know. Men let me know, you're my woman. I want you. So, okay, if we're feeling each other, that's how it was in the past. But now I would say it doesn't take very long. Right now, I'm serious. When I tell you, people think I'm crazy when I say I pray and I ask the Holy Spirit to show me immediately, and He will. And certain things, sometimes I don't even have to ask because there are certain things that I'm seeing up front and I already know, like, nah, that's not it. But when and that's why I know when it happens, I will know what I know because I know what I like. I know what interests me, and I know when I'm feeling at peace and when I'm not, when I'm anxious and just knowing this is not it. And I would honestly say, I would think within the first few months, because of where I am right now in my walk with Christ, and just in the things that I've learned from Dr. Daniels as well, as far as getting to know someone on a friendship level, and then allowing it to grow into something else, into actual dating. I haven't gotten to a point of dating anybody yet. Okay. So, because we don't get there. We can't get there. It normally, that it dissolves itself in the quote unquote friendship stage, so to speak. So I would say maybe within the first few months, if we can get to that point, if I get that far with somebody, then that's going to speak volumes in itself. So,
yeah.
I was going to say
that, you have to distinguish between dating someone and spending time with someone. Because, when you first meet somebody, you're not in a committed relationship. Right? I mean, it's just, you're getting to know the person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you look at it and say, well, from the time that we're in a committed relationship, which when we're saying, we are kind of exclusive kind of deal,
Mm-hmm.
that point on, how long? See, but to me, why would you be exclusive with somebody who you don't feel is marriage material? See, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
I live long enough now that, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm not by myself in this. I've talked to several guys my age and they say the same thing. I don't need but 30 days to figure if I'm gonna marry you. You know why? Because here's what I know. Anatomically, all women have the same parts. Okay. Life, it ain't gonna change, right? So now the question is this: I want a and I want your health records, okay? And I need a reference from your previous husband. That's all I need.
You might not want one from mine.
I do. I want to know what about you, okay? Just, I want to know why you ain't married. I want to know why you still single. Why that you this old and you still single? Now, if your husband is dead, then I want to know how he died. I want or was undetermined. Because when you think about this, again, you get a certain age, your mindset is different.
Yes, it's
You
true.
with anybody at a certain age because you know you better. See, when you're young, you look for the other person to make you happy.
Yeah.
When you're older, you look for yourself,
Yep.
and you just need that other person not to do something to make you sad. So that's what I'm saying. Credit report, you got good credit. Okay, we looking good. Health report, you got good health, or you got good health insurance. We're looking pretty good. And if you didn't kill your husband, and if I get that good report from him that it was his mistake and not your mistake, we're good to go. That's how long it take to get a criminal check back? About 30 days, right? 30.
Yep, 30 days.
Yeah.
Which is funny that you basically stole the question I was about to ask. You answered it, which is like, what goggles would you, if you had on the goggles that you had on when you was in your 20s versus now, what would be different? Because I think about, give a shout out to Mike. I think about somebody like Mike that works in the video booth. Somebody his age dating now and how crazy things are now with in society. I can't imagine dating right now at 20 years old. It just, no, I don't want no parts of it. Okay. But looking through those smart goggles when I was 18, 19, 20, up to like 24 and 25 years old are completely different than what I'm looking at the goggles I have on now. So when I try to talk to people, I try to like at least understand, like, okay, I get it. But how is it different for you all when you're thinking about, your love life and your marriage, or you're dating or trying to find someone, in your case, Angie, versus when you was younger? Did anything change, or is it basically kind of the same? You just tweak stuff. And then for you, Dr. Daniels, do you just tell people differently on how to just do the thing the right way out the gate?
Well, let me say this. Dating is easier now than it was when I was dating. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you got a little young for this, but there was we call it the flower children, flower child, the hippie movement. The movement was all about free love, right? And so it when they say free love, it was exactly that, okay. And you also didn't have the tools you have now. So you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have all the, so it wasn't as easy to figure out who the person really was. So to me, it was harder back then than it is right now. Those are things you didn't know about a person. My advice to people is simple. Listen, if you know you're not ready to be married, then you shouldn't be dating anyway. Okay. So if I'm not ready to be married, I'm not dating. That's my advice, because people who say, well, we're not ready yet, are people who were not ready to be married in the first place. So if all people who are ready to be married date, then it's not a matter of a long time, because now it's just, I'm only associating in that manner with people who I already know are looking to get married, as opposed to who just looking to have a good time.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Um, right now, looking at where I am now in life versus where I was before being married and divorced, what I was looking for then was just, for me, it was my ex-husband and I, we come from a two-parent household, and, we have some of the same views, and, we had kids, so we got married. Um, but knowing what I know now, I did not know God already had a plan for my life. I'm being real about this. I had no idea. Um, I wasted a lot of time. Well, I shouldn't say I wasted a lot of time, because that is what has given me the wisdom that I have now. That's part of God's gift. So I learned a lot. And my whole goal right now is to help other women avoid that path of pain that I took trying to do it myself. What I know right now is to lean into God and to let Him show me who it is that I'm supposed to be with. Now that I'm learning so much more about myself, it's not all about, the physical appearance, that's great. That's nice. That's the first thing that attracts you to a person. But then you got to go past that. You got to go past the surface and go a lot deeper and really get to know a person, who they are, and how. And now I also know, like you said, it is about how I can please them and make them happy. Whereas before it was more so about how can he make me happy? And knowing that, that's a big difference for me. And just knowing also that marriage is about purpose. So when I do meet someone and we're getting to know one another on a friendship level, can we talk to one another? I want to know if you're a man of God first. Are you showing me these things? And like you said before, um, the fruit of the spirit, things like that. I'm looking for all that now. Whereas before I wasn't. I know before I didn't want a man that was mean spirited and things like that. But now I know exactly what I'm looking for in a person. And can we build and grow together? Can he wait? If something happens to me health wise, I had a hysterectomy in 2008 that put me down for a minute. So are you waiting on me, or are you out here getting it from somebody else? Those are things that I think about, these things. So that's where it's different. And I really would love to teach other women right now, like, hey, let's get yourself together, get you together, so you will recognize what God has for you. Because when you don't have yourself together, you won't recognize what God has for you, because what you were looking for when you were younger is definitely not going to be the same thing when you're 50, like I am right now. So it's a big difference.
Yeah. So what I would tell my younger self is really to just honestly go at it alone. Build a business alone. Find yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Understand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the buttons that can be pressed and what buttons you need to turn off altogether. Then go get married.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you don't know which buttons that are your hot buttons for, it's like what send you through the roof, and you get with somebody and they hit that right combination, now you feel like you about to turn the whole house upside down like Ike Turner. But you don't know what happened. But it's because you don't know your buttons. And I tell you, like, I now I know my buttons. And when somebody presses those buttons, I just leave the room. I say, I leave the room, sometimes the entire house, because you don't want to see that side of me. So, but then I can control me. So that's where it took me a while to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but me going through things helped me understand those buttons. But if I'd have went through that period of time focusing on myself, then that would have alleviated a whole lot of drama that I went through. But now I'm past all that, and I know the buttons, and every once in a while the buttons get pressed, but hey, I know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would have done, or tell my younger self to do. All right. So basically, what I'm hearing from both of you all is that anything really, if we just take an average here, beyond 3 months is too far. And Dr. Daniels, your reasoning is because you're breaking down that there's a difference between spending time with somebody, you just hanging out, and full-fledged dating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
No,
because
well,
I know.
I'm not saying 3 months is too far. What I'm saying is that the length of time is based upon what our goals are as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
But because what I'm saying is this: let's say that I see someone, I'm in the choir singing. I see someone on the third pew, and I say, you know what? That's a nice looking lady, right? And so, we just talking after Bible study, what have you. We go out and we cup of coffee or so forth, whatever. But I saw what kind of car she drove up there in. On the first date, folk always tell you what they do for a living. So I got an idea for financial status, at least what the income would be in. I don't know her bills, but I know the income coming in. And so, we like each other. We go out a couple more times because we just still trying to get to know each other, right? So I will know in a couple of friendship kind of gatherings if that person's head is where they are looking for a husband, right?
Exactly.
And also know, let's say I'm looking for a wife. Okay. Now, but that doesn't mean we're going to say we're going to just commit to each other for 3 months before we get married, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there might be some things that we both need to do that we can agree on that need to be done, right? Let's say, I get her credit report and she had a 640. Then we got to agree that you got to get Lisa up to a 755. We can make this move. We got to pay some of the bills. So I'm saying, to me, it's not just the length of time. It is what we have agreed on. We may agree to say, you know what, we're going to give each of us a year to get to this point.
Mm.
We have some kids that she might want to get out the house first, and once the kids get out, then we're going to get married, because I may be saying, look, my kids are grown. I don't need no small kids. I'm saying it's really situational is the point I'm making.
Right,
But
right.
the one is that you should know before you date if the person is someone you can marry. That's my.
Yep.
All
He's
right.
right.
All right. So as we're coming up on around about 40 minutes now, so I'll let Angie go first. Angie, you like to bring up anything before we close out?
I would just like to say, Dr. Daniels, he's right. He's correct. We should know, like, in that friendship stage of things, if this is a person that you want to get to know a little bit more, um, to see if, okay, are we gonna start going past the surface now and bringing up some deeper things, as far as if we can actually do this. But that doesn't mean, like he said, then it's time to get married. But you have some goals to work towards. So I like that. I really like that. So I it would be nice. I'll just be glad when I get to that point with someone. So, but I'm taking my time, and I would just tell others not to settle. Don't rush into anything. Don't go out there just because you want to be married. Just don't settle. Please don't, because you won't be happy. You won't be happy at all. Take your time and allow the Holy Spirit to guide you. And that's real talk.
All right, Dr. Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Paul said, if you cannot contain, it's better to marry than to burn. So if I know that you're the one, then I can only wait as long as I can hold out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that was a whole lot said right there by Paul.
I know, right? Paul said a lot, didn't it? Really.
It makes a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is Joe CB Baker. Thank y'all for listening, tuning in, and please make sure you hit that subscribe button and share this episode along with the whole entire playlist of the podcast on YouTube. And I know y'all are watching now on Facebook, so please share this episode. This is Joe CB Baker. Till next time.